Captain's log stardate 99886.4. I couldn't think of a better way to spend my birthday than aboard the USS TREKnological with my faithful co-captain Shoff by my side. Unfortunately for us, this week's episode of Star Trek Picard did not live up to our expectations. I'm going to be holding a captain's meeting in the ready room. Hopefully we can get a diplomatic way of discussing it. Aw, yeah! Welcome back to TREKnological, your source for all things Star Trek. I am one of your co-captains, Vactor, and I am with my favorite Star Trek fan in the world, co-captain Shoff. Shoff, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I just beamed in for this podcast, and I am so ready to talk about Star Trek Picard and all things Trek. It's so great to be doing this with you, Vactor. Very happy to. Now, I'm going to say your accent. I know you were trying to go for a Picard, but that was not good.
For some reason, my Picard turned into a little shrimp on the barbie. I don't know why, but
Patty Stew went down under.
I'm going to have to work on that one, Shoff. Maybe in the next episode. But I'm very glad that you have joined us, dear listener, for another episode of TREKnological. Please, we want to let everybody know that you can always check out all of our wonderful podcasts aboard our Geek So to Speak podcast network over at geeksotospeak.com/network. We have a lovely plethora of podcasts for you to check out. Please remember to rate us and review us in Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and let your friends and family know that we are your source for all things Trek, and especially all of your Picard fans out there. Let them know that TREKnological is here to review every episode. Shoff, without further delay, let's scan the planet's surface for any sign of Trek news.
I found some Trek news, sir. Shall I display it on the main view screen?
Make it so, Number Shoff. All right, so we have some Trek news for you. We're not going to go into detail on all of these stories, but we will have it in our show notes. If you're interested in checking out any of these news articles, refer to our show notes. I wanted to start off with Mission Chicago was a rousing success from what I noticed, Shoff, online. It was basically Comic-Con for Star Trek fans. And from all of the reports, it seems like the Lower Decks panel was the place to be, because not only did they have some great cosplay and season 3 clues, but they also had a delightfully insightful response to Paramount Plus's Trek shows. And I will refer everyone over to, like I said, our show notes have all of the links. But this article was posted over at Cinema Blend, and the showrunner Mike McMahon? I don't know how to pronounce it.
McMahon?
Yeah. He's actually one of the guys that worked on Rick and Morty. That's how I know him. Left Rick and Morty to come over to do the Trek show, Lower Decks, and became the showrunner on that. And you could tell the art style is a little similar to Rick and Morty, but he had a question that was posed to him, Shoff. And it was very of the moment right now. Kind of, what is it about Trek fans and their response, to all things Trek that's been going on? And his response was kind of, it took into account the Lower Decks effect and kind of Trek in general. And I thought this was very insightful. So I'll just kind of read an excerpt from his response here. So he was talking about kind of all the currently airing shows and how they tackle the main challenge of what the original series did way back in the day. If you go back and you read about writing the original series and making the original series, they didn't know what Star Trek was. They were making Star Trek for the first time, and every show was making Star Trek for the first time. In some ways, the other Star Treks that are on that I love in all of their own ways, those are all making Star Trek for the first time. It's like getting the original series again with new brains and new era, and I really, really love that they're doing that. And then he went on to talk about, how Lower Decks is kind of doing that and the current state of Star Trek. And you and I were talking off the air kind of about, the current state of Star Trek and where everything is right now. We've talked about this on the show in the past. I think it's a really great time to be a Star Trek fan right now. There's just so much great content. There's just, it's like when Star Wars came back out of the dark ages, as I call it, where you didn't know if there was going to be a new movie. You didn't know if there was going to be anything else. So we were kind of holding on to the original. This is before the prequels and everything else that came.
Oh, yeah.
That's how Star Trek was. I think for a little while, it was like a little bit of a dark area where we didn't know what was coming next. We didn't know what we were going to get. Now we're in it. We got 2 live action shows going on. We got 2 animated shows going on right now. We got the movies coming out that the cast doesn't even know what the script is or what the movies are going to be about. But it's a great time to be a Trek fan. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the fact that, because the article kind of goes into and talks about how fans are just so fickle, right? Like they're upset because there's not enough Trek in their lives.
Right.
But at the same time, and they'll revolt, they'll riot, right?
Right.
There's no Trek on TV. I'm gonna start a riot.
Yeah.
But then you put, as I said on multiple episodes, this is the 2022 is the TREKnaissance
Yes.
of things, and people are still bitching and moaning. And by the way, I can say the B word because that is okay on primetime television. So that's still a kid-friendly podcast. But yeah, people just are never satisfied is really the problem. And I think that extends out to just general fandoms for anything, right? Marvel,
yes.
DC, everyone has
Star
gripes
Wars.
about stuff.
Yep.
Star Wars, absolutely. There was a quote that the article sort of links out to because not only do fans have opinions on whether or not Star Trek right now is really good or really bad, or if some shows are good and some shows are bad. There's lots of talk about, there's not enough diversity or there's too much diversity or whatever. Right. And the article linked out to George Takei. Or George Takei?
Takei, yes. You
Takei,
were correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Got it right the first time. That's right, Trekkies. I know my stuff. But he is quoted as saying, and I want to read this because it's really good. I always think he's a pretty insightful guy in general on social media and his thoughts on things. But he says, now these so-called trolls haven't seen a single episode of the new series. He's talking about Discovery because it hasn't been aired. This was something right when Discovery was starting off, and there was a lot of questions about the diversity of things and having a female quote-unquote commander and just the cast in general. There was Asian Americans and who knows what else. There was a lot going on. And they don't know the history of Star Trek either. Gene Roddenberry created this with the idea of finding strength in our diversity and also the delight of life in diversity. And he said that we had a guiding acronym, IDIC. And I'm not sure if you've caught that before, but it's a Vulcan thing that they've adopted. But the concept is it stands for infinite diversity in infinite combinations. We boldly went where we hadn't gone before because we were curious about what's out there. And when you go out into space, you're going to have even greater diversity. And so Star Trek, first on-screen kiss, right?
Yes, right.
Then you've got interracial kiss,
Yes.
and you've got relationships between gay individuals. Star Trek Discovery has diversity in the form of various pronouns being utilized, and I think it's a great time because everybody is represented on Star Trek. So as far as people having problems with the shows, one being better than another, you're going to have your favorites. I personally think that Trek has never been better.
Yeah.
But I still love what came before, and I appreciate TNG. I appreciate DS9. I appreciate the original series, Voyager, all this stuff. Even Enterprise, and Enterprise has its moments. But yeah, I think that we should just be happy that we have something, because we know what it's like to be without Trek. And for a long time, Paramount didn't know what to do with Trek. So we've come a long way.
Yeah. So you won't know that from Shoff's thoughts on this episode of Picard, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Just a little teaser there. But definitely check out our show notes. Like I said, there's some nice cosplay pictures with the cast of Lower Decks. There's a season 3 trailer for Lower Decks, as well as a new book that got announced for Strange New Worlds, a nice article on StarTrek.com about Jonathan Frakes directing, and then the official Star Trek mission convention is set for Seattle next year, May 2023. And Shoff and I are trying to make plans to beam aboard that convention, but we'll see what happens next year in May of 2023. We're going to have our hands full with little babies running around, and who knows what's going to happen then, but it's definitely going to be a fun time in Seattle. Actually, Shoff may be relocating there. We don't know.
It's true. I will be in
will.
Washington, and I'll only be like maybe an hour and a half away from Seattle. So
snap.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's got to happen. I've got to go.
Live episode from Mission Seattle. We're calling it now, folks.
Yeah.
One last bit of news before we get on to Shoff's favorite episode of the season, Star Trek. This is to follow up on the Trek news that we had. Was it last week, Shoff, or 2 weeks ago, about Spock's name?
Oh, I think it was last week.
Okay. So it had been revealed that Spock's first name, and I still don't know how to pronounce it, Shoff.
I want you to give it a shot, because I totally butchered it last week, and now it's your turn to utterly just melt under the pressure of trying to get this right.
My pronunciation from the way it's spelled is Sachin Tagai. Sachin Tagai Spock. And that was reported as that will be his full name. But guess what? Now we don't know. This is a big maybe, Shoff, because apparently we thought this was actually confirmed that it was going to be revealed. But now I think the showrunners are coming out and saying, hey, this is not true, guys. We don't know if that is 100%. This name actually was lifted from a 1985 Star Trek novel called Ishmael, written by Barbara Hambly. But officials from Star Trek Mission Chicago have clarified that while Spock does have a first name, the name on the poster is not correct. So
interesting.
We don't know. So we'll see, Shoff. Again, I think when we reported it, it was like a rumor. It wasn't like official, but this is now we're in the maybe category on this.
You would think that they would be talking to their marketing department,
yeah, exactly,
and getting the correct information,
yes,
before posting and sharing posters and whatnot. But hey, what are you gonna do?
All right, so that's all the Star Trek news this week, Shoff. Let's set a course for our episode recap. Maximum warp.
Aye, sir. Course laid in.
Give me that Szechuan sauce.
Oh, you know what? I'm so glad that we had that question come up, because otherwise we would have been doing like boring stuff like make it so, engage. And I'm not saying those things are boring, but they're done and redone, right?
Yes.
Like this is a chance for us to be original, and I'm so glad that we asked that question a few episodes ago, because it's really changed the game.
Yeah. If the listeners have any other questions like that, which might spur a new catchphrase, let us know. If you are so bold. This week's episode, Shoff, was episode 7 of season 2, entitled Monsters, where T'Lyn ventures inside Picard's subconscious mind to wake him from a coma and face his darkest secrets and deepest fears. Meanwhile, Seven and Rafi go in search of Jurati. Rio struggles to hide the truth of who he really is from Teresa. So this episode aired April 14th, the day after my birthday, Shoff.
That's right.
Directed-
happy, I guess we could say belated. I mean, I wished you happy birthday last week officially, but so I'm not late, but just for the standpoint of when we're recording this episode, happy belated birthday to you, co-captain Vactor.
Thank you very much. This episode was directed by Joe Menendez and written by Jane Maggs. So as we teased a little bit earlier, Shoff had set my expectations for this episode because he texts me, as he always does, before, because Shoff gets to watch the episodes before I do. And he said to me, you know what? This is the worst episode of the season. And I said, wow, I think this show is on the season, I should say, is on kind of a downward trend because we started off so great and we were going up every episode. And now we seem to be taking a little bit of a dip. Hopefully we can pull back up again. But that definitely set my expectations. And I would have to agree with you, Shoff. I think this is probably the weakest episode of the season. And specifically, the Picard coma is what I think tanks this episode.
It does. It really does. By the way, let's throw up a red alert on this for potential spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the episode. All right. So it does. And this is not the first time any show has done this, right? Like, especially Star Trek. They've done the idea of going into someone's subconscious, and the episode takes place in this sort of esoteric, like ethereal realm where anything goes and it's your imagination and it's always like very abstract and things like that. And I've seen it in like on The Flash plenty of times in the CW verse, you know, like lots of shows do this. And I like that they try to get creative, right? It's going to be a cerebral episode.
Right. And sometimes even on Trek, it's on the holodeck. It's like, okay, we're in this make-believe world. But this one, I think it just kind of fell flat. And I was trying to put my finger on what it was specifically. I think it was maybe too literal of, you know, the episode title is Monsters. Right. And Picard sees literally monsters in his mind. And I almost felt like that was just too on the nose. Also, it wasn't, I don't think, the highest production level. It felt very 90s straight to VHS movie level quality. Freak of the week, you know, stuff like that. That to me, it just took me out of it.
I agree. Yeah. Also, I just felt like the episode started very strangely too. Yeah. There was
well, you know what it was? I actually looked at the clock. It was 10 minutes before the opening credits came on. I was like, what am I watching right now? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, it was strange. And as they kind of show Picard, he's like talking to a counselor of some kind. And it's very jarring because there's really no introduction to that scene taking place or anything like that. Right. We don't know this person that he's interacting with. By the way, quick shout out. Probably the best part about this episode is that they got someone with some severe actor gravitas, in my opinion, James Callis, who played Gaius Baltar, the antagonist / villain of Battlestar Galactica. And quick side note, Vactor, I have to ask, have you seen BSG?
Yes, not the original, but the remake with Gaius Baltar on it. I watched from start to finish, loved it, and my wife loves it as well.
Oh my gosh! Okay, that warms my heart because it's definitely one of my top 3 favorite TV shows of all time. I'm not talking about the 70s show. I'm talking about the reimagined. It's kind of a sequel in its own right.
Yeah. Ronald D. Moore is the showrunner on that one. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And man, that was some great television. And I got Sarah to watch it, my wife.
Nice.
My wife. and she loved it too. And it's so funny. I ordered just the other day, I was on Mondo's website. And they do lots of great vinyl records and pressings and posters and all sorts of stuff. And they happen to have a Battlestar Galactica live concert that was just made into a 2-disc vinyl. It's like a red look to it, and I forget. I think it's called "So Say We All," which is really awesome. But it is a live concert with all of the music performed by like an orchestra. Conducted by Bear McCreary, who is an amazing composer for lots of scores of stuff, including BSG.
Yes.
And so I was like, I got to pick this up. And
you said that was on Mondo's website?
That's on Mondo's website.
Oh,
so
man, I might have to check this out, Shaw, because my wife is a huge fan. And
she loved the show too.
Yeah.
She was like, I would rewatch that show. And it's like that episode of Portlandia, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where they're like,
that is my favorite. This is a side note, but that is my favorite episode of Portlandia. I could not breathe. I was laughing so hard at that episode.
We 100%. Got one more episode. So anyways, we're getting sidetracked on Star Trek.
But he was fantastic.
But yeah, having him in the show was so great because he's such a great actor.
Yeah.
And
it was crazy seeing him in a Starfleet uniform.
Yeah.
Because his face and his voice is so ingrained in my mind of Battlestar. I was like, am I watching Battlestar? Or like it took me out of it for a second, and then I was like, oh wait, I'm watching Picard. But yeah, he was
like
100%.
the snarky attitude was still there.
Yes,
but he was far more stoic.
Yes.
Far more stoic than he is than he was in BSG. But it was great to have him in the Star Trek universe, and not only that, but to portray such an important key role in Picard's upbringing. We don't find this out until way later in the episode, but I kind of had a theory when we were interacting with him. I'm like, just because he's the counselor, like he's clearly more to it than that. To have some random person be in Picard's dream, interacting with him, like there's more to it than that. So we find out that he's Picard's father. So that's a really interesting wrinkle.
Yeah, because we had only seen his father, Maurice, in The Next Generation as an old man. We had never seen him before in his youth, his prime. So that was interesting. His mother as well. And actually the Ready Room afterwards, which I think you and I would agree, Shuff, the Ready Room episode was actually better than the Picard episode. They had a really nice interview on there, and then kind of the history of Picard and his parents. So yeah, I was just kind of taken aback by the coma and everything that was going on, but having him in there, having Battlestar Galactica alum in there made it good for me, at least just that part.
Oh yeah.
So the other kind of hijinks that we're getting on here, Seven and Rafi trying to go after Girardi, there I think was the smallest out of all of the side plots. They didn't have as much to do. They tracked her down on some security footage and found that she's trying to take over and impregnate everybody and take over all the humans on Earth. But that was it. Like we basically got that a couple scenes.
If Girardi wants to impregnate me, I'm all for it.
I don't know how your wife would feel about that, Schaff, but
she doesn't listen.
Well, in that case, yeah, I like Alison Pill. I think she's a very talented actress.
That is not a tough pill to swallow.
Oh.
No, yeah, she's a lot of fun, and she got very little to do in this episode. Yeah. Very little to do.
I don't even know if she shot any new footage. It looked like it was just the footage from last week where she's walking in the street at night.
Well, but we see her put her hands up to the glass, and she shatters the window of the bar, which the bar actually had the scene had a singer, like a lounge singer.
Yeah, I was wondering, was that a real singer?
Well, yeah, but that's actually Patty Stew's wife.
Right. You were telling me that. Yeah, before.
So she's a singer-songwriter, and so she was brought on to do that part, which is pretty cool. So
yeah, because they did
and
focus
good for him,
on her.
because she's much younger than him. Good for him.
Yeah, I had no idea. You had told me that before the episode, and I had completely forgot it. But the way they kind of focused on her, I was like, wait a minute. Am I supposed to know who this person is? Because this seems like they're getting, for a background extra, they're getting
he was like, make sure you get in real close on my wife.
Xavier? Okay. So I think that was kind of the smallest of the subplots. The bigger ones, I would say, was the Guinan and Picard interactions, which I've loved every Guinan interaction we've had so far. The one with Whoopi Goldberg, and then the one with the younger actor who I forgot her name, Ito something.
Yeah, if I dare say her name, I will totally butcher it. But she is an excellent actress. I really like her a lot.
Yeah, she's been doing a fantastic job. And like I said, she's actually the guest on the Ready Room for this episode. And highly recommend, because I didn't know her background. I didn't know, a lot of the casting process. And she talks about all of that, getting ready for it. She's a huge Star Trek fan. So I had a great time watching the Ready Room this week. And the gravitas she brings to Guinan, I think it's kind of difficult because how Guinan is going to be in the future. And we've seen the great Whoopi Goldberg performance, even on this show, even on Picard, where you're seeing the older Guinan, the later version of her. And then you have to play the younger version, but still have those aspects of her character that make her recognizable, make her who she is. But she hasn't had those life experiences as much up to the new point. So I found all of that. I think she did she knocked it out of the park. She really embodies that character. And then it also kind of made me interested that, wait a minute, she did the call out to the Q and no Q responded. So what's going on there? So just...
yeah, but I think as well, we already noticed that Q is having some problems with his powers.
Right.
He's having some performance anxiety.
Can't get it up. Come on, Q.
He's got some Q impotence.
Come on.
But yeah, so maybe that's part of it. That's why he couldn't be summoned, because he can't use his own powers, or he can't quite use all his own powers. Yeah. That's why, because I think like if he could have done something himself, rather than having Adam Sung, try to run her down, right? Like, so he's like resorting to some very human things to try to get the job done, because his powers are pretty much lacking. So I feel like that's part of the problem. And as we find out in this episode, Picard's sort of he's connecting the dots, and he's like, this is very personal for Q. To have this trial, to have this thing go down, and to be interacting with Picard, who has been his they've been adversaries for so many years. So more and more, it just feels like, is Q dying? Like, what's going on? Or is he being pushed out of the continuum or something? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I looked it up. It's Ito Agayere. That is the actor who plays the young Guinan, and doing a fantastic job of it. So yeah, she was probably the standout for me. I really liked her performance in this episode. And then the final part of the multi-part story, Shaw, as we're following along here, was the Rios storyline, where he's trying to hide the truth from Teresa. And he had the standout quote from the episode, Shaw, which I wrote down. I'm from Chile. I work in outer space. And it just made me laugh when I heard that. So
I definitely laughed too when I caught that. I was like, that's funny. That's a good line. That's some good writing right there.
And that inspired, you can't see it, listeners, but my background right now on Zoom as I talk to Shaw is Rios' ship. And that kind of inspired me to say, hey, here it is.
La Sirena.
Yeah.
Yeah, he brings them to the ship. He transports them right onto the ship after he basically like spills the beans. Like, this is who I am. Like, I need you to use this alien tech, this futuristic tech on Picard to help him with what's going on in his dreams and whatnot. The kid is like, I'm gonna touch everything,
which is funny because my son wants to touch everything. He is at the age right now. He just turned 1 year old, and he wants to touch literally everything in my house and outside of my house. So that kind of hit home for me and made me laugh. So what are we going to get, Shaw, from the next couple episodes? Because we already got in the previous episode the warning to Rios about altering the timeline, falling in love. And we talked about it last week. Do you have any more leanings towards he's going to stay in the past or he's going to bring her to the future? Your personal thoughts.
Yeah. Gosh, that's tough. I think that it would be great to see her and her son go to the future, but I also think that she wouldn't leave her clinic like that.
Yeah, right.
So I think that right now this is just like a dramatic thing for Rios to have, because otherwise, when you think about his character and the scope of what's going on right now, he's kind of not needed, you know?
Yeah, right.
So like this is like a B plot for him to have, just so that there's some substance and you get to know him as a character and as a person. But ultimately, I think that he's going to be heading back to the future without him. Is my guess.
Do you think he's going to end up with Girardi?
No, and I hope they don't personally, because he's not even really into it either. He kind of just wanted it to be like a one night stand or whatever. But I mean, I don't understand what his problem is. She's perfectly fine if you ask me.
Hey.
But yeah, that's something there. Now I will say there was one cool reveal, and I'm glad we finally got this answer.
Yes.
Is Talon, I think is how we pronounce her name.
Yes.
We know that she is a supervisor and she's watching and everything. But she uses, like, first of all, she curses in Romulan in a previous episode. She has Romulan like ear tech that she wears over her ear. And then we find out that she actually is Romulan. So just like we suspected, she's not Laris, but she is definitely an ancestor of Laris.
Yes.
So that's kind of funky.
Yeah, I want to see.
I mean, that's
what's
cool,
going on there.
but it's like,
where are they going to go with that?
yeah, especially if Picard like kisses her at all, like has any kind of like romantic thing with her, and then he's like, once he gets back to the present day, he's like, oh, I want to make out with Laris now. He's like, I already had her ancestor. I'm gonna become my own Eskimo buddy and make sure to.
Well, at least it's not Marty. You mean my mom has got the hots for me? At least it's not that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go with her. I guess it's kind of the same as the actress who played the android, Issa Baronis, from the last one. Where, all right, this is not her, but this is maybe an ancestor of her that we see in the future. Just another way to use the actor in another role. So interesting, but we will see. I think Shoff and I both want Picard to come out of this nosedive that they've gone into. We've only got 3 more episodes left, Shoff. So
yeah,
let's see.
I think it's got to ramp up from here. I mean, it's almost like they've forgotten about the time situation, like how much time they have left.
Yeah, this is an awful lot for this season. It's almost like, is this season going to completely take place in the past, and then the last episode we go back to the future?
Right. Like, is it going to end on a cliffhanger? Is a good question. And then by the end of the episode, Picard and is it
Talon?
And Talon? Yeah, and they both get arrested.
Yeah, right.
Oh no, I'm sorry, not Talon.
Guinan. Yes, sorry. Yeah. Yes.
They get arrested, and to me, like, as much as I get it, but that to me is like spinning your wheels on plot.
Yeah.
It's like, how many things can we make that would happen in that time period to create conflict and hurdles for our characters to overcome? Like, that just, it kind of bugs me. It kind of irritates me from a narration, like from a narrative perspective. They've had enough struggles. Like freaking Rios got picked up by immigration. Like, it's like,
exactly.
How many other things from like the 21st century is going to happen to them right now?
Right.
So
Seven and Rafi are going to become reality stars, and they're going to go viral on Twitter, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I really hope it picks up. I mean, they can't all be gems, right? So like, some episodes are going to be better than others, but largely this series has been really, really good. So hopefully they can recapture that magic.
Yeah. And if anybody is interested, Battlestar Galactica, all 4 seasons are on Peacock, so you can go watch over there. Shoff and I give it our highest recommendations. But we thank you very much for listening to another episode of TREKnological. Shoff, do you have any interesting updates this week? I know you're anxiously awaiting something.
I am, yes. I was like, what am I? Oh yeah, no, baby number two. Baby number two is honestly any day now. Any day now. I wish I knew exactly.
Maybe
when
by
she
the
was going to
time
show up.
you're listening to this,
Possible.
Shoff will have a new life form in his house.
That's right, a new life form. But I also in Trek related updates. It's gonna be hard to see.
Yeah, Will Wheaton.
Yeah, but Will Wheaton published a new book, or rather, he didn't publish it. He wrote it, and it was published. But it's another memoir of his. It's called "Still Just a Geek."
Nice.
It's an annotated memoir, and it's about his time as an actor, working on Star Trek, working on Big Bang Theory, and the fandom and everything that surrounds that, as well as his time as a film actor, like Stand By Me, amongst other things. And I haven't had a chance to really read it, but I've opened it up, and it's very interesting. And I just think he's a very compelling person in general. Yeah. So I was really excited to pick up this memoir. And one cool thing, quick shout out to Will Wheaton. I posted about getting this book on the TREKnopod Instagram. Shout out to TREKnopod. Yeah. And he liked it. He liked the story, so I felt like, oh my gosh, we're basically best friends now. So, hey, Will, how you doing? Friend of the show.
Love it, Shoff.
What about you, Vactor? I know you got a birthday you just celebrated, but anything else going on, or anything you wanted to share?
I have been kind of slowly receiving gifts throughout the week, and I want to thank everyone who wished me a happy birthday online and who sent me presents. Shoff was generous and gracious enough to send me a gift. Although by the time I am recording this, I have not opened up Shoff's gift because I'm saving that for the Geek So to Speak podcast. So if you're interested to see what Shoff got me, definitely check out this week's Geek So to Speak episode, because I'm going to be doing a live unboxing, and we will have that for your listening pleasure. Also, are we doing video on that one, Shoff? Are we going to have video of me opening my present?
Probably, because we can have it be after the main topic. So then, yeah.
Excellent. So definitely check out the Geek So to Speak podcast and all of our Geek So to Speak podcasts on our podcast network, including the Holdo Maneuver, which is our Star Wars podcast, the Sandbox Gamers, our video game podcast, Geek So to Speak, like I said, the Big Daddy, the Big Zaddy, as Shoff says, and Vactor Loves Comics, which is our comic book podcast, which actually this week we're trying a little something different on the formatting of Vactor Loves Comics. So if anybody's interested, check that out and let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe and review in all of your podcasting all of your favorite podcast catchers, I should say. Apple and Spotify, you can give us 5-star ratings. That would be lovely. Share us with all of your Trek-loving friends and family, because we know if you're listening to this, you've got at least one friend or one family member who loves Trek as well. So share us with them. And next week, we're going to be talking about episode 8 of Picard, and we'll have some more Trek news for you, Shoff. Hopefully, we'll have some news about Shoff as well. Don't forget, you can always follow us on Instagram and Twitter at TREKnopod. So I believe our mission of the week is complete, Co-Captain Shoff. Shoff and Vactor here, 2 to beam up.
Live long and prosper!